Prime Minister says that the COPE and audit reports have been handed over to the Auditor General. MTV Channel Private Limited responds to letter of demand from Perpetual Treasuries Limited, claims 25 billion rupees as cross-claim. Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca to take action against violated rights.
මම අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මේ සතිය ඇතුළත අගමැතිතුමාගේ උපදෙස් පරිදි මම ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා.
Chinese ambassador comments on projects marred with allegations of corruption in Sri Lanka. Today marks International Day to end impunity for crimes against journalists.
A very good evening. It's nice to have you with us here on News First as we bring you prime time news. A very good evening. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
Good evening. I'm Shahan Jarampati. Welcome to Prime Time News. Let's take a look at our top stories this evening.
Speaking at an event held at the United National Party headquarters Sirikotha today, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said action will be taken regarding the Treasury bond issue following advice from the Attorney General on the report compiled by the Committee on Public Enterprise.
මට තිබුණ ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී කෝප් කොමිටියේ සභාපති එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයෙන් පත් කළා.
I could have appointed someone from the United National Party as the chairman of COPE. But at that instance, the Janata Vimukti Peramuna requested the chairmanship of COPE. Then I said, fine, let's appoint a chairman who is acceptable by all. That is when Sunil Handunatti was appointed as chairman. I told the Attorney General that if he needs more documents and if they are in Parliament, to please meet with the Speaker when he returns next week and find what he needs. By handing him these reports to go through, I think we have taken away his weekend as well now. He can see what needs to be done and assess the report and appoint another team to study it. So that is all we did, protect good governance. Why are we protecting good governance? Because we made a commitment to protect rule of law. If anyone has a particular detail on someone, that should be resolved through the law. If it is said here that the former governor must be investigated, it should be done. The investigation must determine if the law has been violated and what law has been violated. We are people who respect the rule of law. If there is something against us, it does not matter. There are allegations against a few people, while the others were placed under remand custody and were released because they are MPs. They apparently went to the Bribery Commission. If I am summoned for a statement, I will come there and give one saying that this is what we have done. We will bring these theft to light and punish those who have committed them. I have summoned the Monetary Board of the Central Bank. So when this matter is tabled in Parliament next week, I will speak to the members of this board on the Greek bonds, examine them and present those details to Parliament as well.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට බාර දීලා ඉදිරියට ගෙනියන්න.
මේ මහා විශාල ධනයක් මං
They've robbed a massive amount of money and are telling the public that they've cleaned up the treasury, which has put them in a bit of difficulty. So now the people have to pay VAT. Never has a theft of this nature come under the spotlight. So the Prime Minister cannot evade or escape this. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has to take full responsibility for this theft. We doubt that a proper investigation will be conducted on this matter until the Prime Minister remains in office. Either the Prime Minister should resign or the people should take to the streets and demand the Prime Minister, the one who is primarily accountable for this daylight robbery, to step down.
සටන් පාටත් එක්ක මේ රටම ඉස්සරහට එන්න ඕන.
Views on the COPE report were expressed on the Saturn Political program, which was aired on our sister channel Sirasa TV last night.
We passed it unanimously on the 26th. No one signed it.
Oh, my Asankara. How the Sankara? Asankara. Asankara, nani? Why Asankara? Footnote karne. Footnote Asankara.
I challenge you. Show me my signature. There was no system to obtain signatures. No one signed it as well. There is no point of obtaining signatures after creating gangs.
Only the recommendations were passed unanimously.
There were no two votes. There was only one. Everyone agreed and that was it.
The report went through. If there were no footnotes, they wouldn't have to break it into two. The report should then include all the names. That is why they have a different name list for the footnotes. That is there in the report. They continuously attempted to lead this report astray. That is why they wanted to prosecute Arjuna Aloysius. Those are things that you cannot do. If someone asks us as to what we have done things that we do not have the right to do.
I have made a report based on the report of the Auditor General. If they are changing the base of the Auditor General, then the base of my report will also change. We were discussing the recommendation that said that Arjuna Mahendran was the culprit when I walked away. I couldn't stay there with a clear conscience. That recommendation was the one that said Arjuna Mahendran had not acted in a prudent manner and that his actions created a loss for the central bank. You all tried to drill the Auditor General. They tried from the beginning. There were people who did not even attend the meeting. They did this in an attempt to stop this report being produced. There was a second attempt where they tried to change the report. That is where the footnotes came in. They tried to keep me in the seat of the chairman, change the opinion of the Auditor General and bring in their own report to Parliament. In the third instance, they snuck in what they compiled separately into this on the 26th. On the 26th, they did not speak any of this. Even we were surprised as to what was happening. There was a public objection when I walked away. The public got to know about this. These were serious problems for the government. He was the one who held me and stopped me. He stopped me and told me there will be a big disaster tomorrow and begged me to stop. Tell us one footnote that is unsuitable. Show us one footnote that supports the thieves. The esteemed panelists have not been able to show us at least one.
Let the country see how Arjuna Mahendran is being cleaned by these people through these footnotes. See how the fact that information was given out to the son-in-law by the father-in-law has been removed through the footnotes.
Now, convening a media briefing today, the joint opposition spoke on the COPE report and recent incidents surrounding it.
Documents of the first complaint which was made have been lying at the Attorney General's department for over a year now. The Attorney General is bound by the Constitution to provide his recommendations in this regard. But the Attorney General has not done anything with regard to this legal act. The Prime Minister and his government have to resign over the biggest bond scam ever to have taken place. This is the stance of the joint opposition.
Perpetual treasuries
Perpetual treasuries should be fined. There are enough and more examples for this. Even during the tenure of Minister Ronnie DeMel, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation was imposed a special fine. Similarly, the primary dealer license of perpetual treasuries must be immediately terminated. Moreover, the President must act immediately to take the central bank out of the hands of the Prime Minister and place it under the purview of either the Finance Ministry or the Presidential Secretariat. Furthermore, Arjuna Mahendran must be taken into custody at the airport when he returns to the country.
President's Counsel Hemantha Warnakulasuriya made a startling revelation regarding an initial report compiled on the central bank bond transaction. The President's Counsel made this statement during a recording of the Newsfirst Hot Seat program.
First time I think I'm exposing this. Mr. Wickramasinghe sent that report and along with that some reports to the Attorney General. The Attorney General received the report and then the Attorney General, then the acting Attorney General, decided to make an inquiry and made it a criminal file and sent it to the appropriate DSG to inquire into this. Then what happened? Within a week, the most unprecedented thing happened. Mr. Arjuna Mahendran sent an invitation, but what is important is what happened to that file. Yeah. What happened to that file? The file was called back by the former Attorney General, the Joanjan Vijaythiraka, and then took it from the criminal division and sent to the civil division to find out whether there was a civil wrong. So you can see how the Attorney General's department has been directed by someone to wash this thing completely off, and the file is still stagnating.
Well, you can watch the full interview with President's Counsel Hemantha Warnakulasuriya on the hot seat right after primetime news tonight on TV1.
In another one of our headline-making stories tonight, MTV Channel Private Limited has responded to the letter of demand by Perpetual Treasuries Limited, dated 13th October 2016, through Nithini Murgesu and Associates, with a counterclaim of 25 billion rupees.
The letter says that MTV Channel Private Limited categorically denies the several erroneous, misconceived allegations contained in the purported letter of demand and purported monetary claim. The letter denies that MTV Channel Private Limited caused to be telecast or telecasted any statements on Pathikada on the 11th of October 2016 that were either libelous or defamatory per se, or by innuendo of Perpetual Treasuries Limited and its reputation. Further, it states that what was telecast was inquired into, researched and investigated and was carried in the best interests of the public and national interests and constituted truth for the public benefit and was fair comment. The letter states that MTV Channel Private Limited is a well-renowned, responsible and award-winning independent media institution that engages in accurate, revelatory research-based reporting and broadcasting in respect of matters that impinge upon public and national interests, which includes matters pertaining to public monies, public finance, economy, corruption, both financial and political, bribery, issues pertaining to the share market, the bond and money markets, concentration of financial affluence, taxation, political matters, just to name a few. The letter also states that the Pathikada program serves to inform and empower the general public of Sri Lanka, who have an entrenched right to information, which is a basic right that is inalienable. The letter adds that Perpetual Treasuries Limited is, through its purported letter of demand, engaging in a blatant attempt to stifle media freedom, entrenched right to freedom of speech and the right to information. The letter states that MTV Channel Private Limited is ever ready and willing to provide an opportunity to Perpetual Treasuries to set out its position. The letter goes on to say that any action sought to be instituted by Perpetual Treasuries would be vigorously resisted and defended by MTV Channel Private Limited, which would prefer a counterclaim for 25 billion rupees for any malicious, frivolous institution of civil proceedings, damages and incurred costs, among other things.
A brief recap on that story. MTV Channel Private Limited has responded to the letter of demand by Perpetual Treasuries Limited dated 13th October 2016 through Niti Murugesu and Associates with a counterclaim of 25 billion rupees. In more local news, leader of the JVP and Member of Parliament Anura Kumara Dissanayake made the following statements at a media briefing last evening.
එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ മന്ത്രി වෙවිලා රූපවාහිනී නාලිකාවල කියනවා හරි අමාරුයි මේවා හොයාගන්න.
Members of the UNP appear on various media channels and state that it is very difficult to uncover these assets as they have been hidden around the world in locations like Dubai and Seychelles. They say the Dubai administration is refusing to divulge information even though they visited them on numerous occasions. Don't go to Dubai, go to Hambantota, Mount Lavinia and Gampaha. We have presented reports and paperwork on the assets gathered by them through money defrauding from the public. But has justice been meted out? Have punishments been handed down? Isn't Ranil Wickremesinghe covering up these frauds? I also have to speak about Sagala Ratnayaka. His house is being built these days in Deniyaya. I will reveal which company is building this house later. What are they doing? Ranil Wickremesinghe has become the leader of the movement to protect these rogues. These rogues and fraudsters are now receiving the protection of Ranil Wickremesinghe.
පත්වී තිබෙනවා ඔහුගේ රැකවරණය ඔහුගේ ආරක්ෂාව මත තමයි නුවන්චනකයන් දූෂිතයන් අද ආරක්ෂාවෙන්.
Former parliamentarian Mervyn Silva convened a media briefing today.
බැඳුම් කරේ පිළිබඳව මහ බැංකුවේ මේක අතෙන්ට දුන්න මෙතෙන්ට දුන්නා අර කොප්පර පිපිඤ්ඤා වගේ පස්ස බැලුවොත් දෙසන්නා වගේ න්‍යාය මේ කියන්න බෑ. මේක බිලියන 10ක් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ දිනුවක් නෙමෙයි බිලියන 10ක්.
This is about 10 billion rupees. This is not something we can play with. 10 billion rupees. Even if I explain everything, you will only air 2 seconds of it. So I will not say anything anymore. There is no point. So I invite all of you. If the media is willing to talk to me, I have a lot to talk about. And I have a lot more to do. I do not like to see the country in a dangerous situation.
රට අනුතුරේ වැටෙනවට මම කැමති නෑ.
ඔතමාට ඔය කියන කටකහන දේවල් කියන්න අපි සිරසෙන් ඉඳ දුන්නොත් එහෙම එනවද? හැබැයි ඔතමා බය නැතුව කියන්න.
නෑ මෙහෙමයි.
අංගගෙන ඉන්න බෑ.
නෑ. මම එහෙම මේ
No, there's nothing to hide. If anyone invites me, I need to think about it.
ඒ මාර්ධනාවක් තියෙනව නම් මම හිතන්න ඕනි ඉස්සෙල්ලා. මේව හෝල්සේල් දෙන්නත් බෑ, රිටේල් දෙන්නත් බෑ. හිතලා මම
You give me your contact number. I will think and let you know.
මම අල්ලබහින දනුත් දන්නවා, වැල යන පැත්තත් දන්නවා, වැල කොහෙන්ද කියලා එන එකත් දන්නවා.
Leader of the National Unity Front, Azad Sali, expressed the following views at a media briefing today.
Only the Rajapaksas can steal and not get caught. People who said that they campaigned for the elections after pawning their lands and held the alms giving for their father by plucking the coconuts on their land are now billionaires. They have also gone to courts to win the CSN back. No one knows what happened to the 156 billion rupees which were deposited in the bank. They don't even know from where it appeared. Now they have gone to courts requesting for an explanation on how the government cancelled the permit. The government couldn't close these cases filed in courts and arrest these people. You saw how they answered when they were questioned about the money, didn't you? Mahinda Rajapaksa might even say that Santa Claus gifted him all this money. He's used to lying, creating tales and stealing. That family has no problem in that. They have no shame. Yesterday, Action TV pointed out certain malpractices carried out at the Vennapur branch of the Lanka Putra Development Bank on the 29th, 30th and 31st of December last year. Senior Manager of Branch Supervision of the Lanka Putra Development Bank today made a written clarification in this regard. The malpractice in question is that notes have been made citing that fixed deposits over 50 million rupees had been made and that over 40 million rupees have been issued as loans from the Vennapur branch of the bank on the 3 days in question. This financial fraud does not see any physical monetary transaction taking place. The senior manager of branch supervision claimed that the Action TV expose, citing that this fraud took place under the supervision of the former chairman of the bank and the senior manager of branch supervision, is false. However, the Auditor General shows his connection to this fraud with evidence. In addition to claiming that he is innocent, he also notes that the Action TV expose on the Lanka Putra Development Bank on 6 separate occasions are false. Moreover, the senior manager of branch supervision goes on to note in this letter that the faith placed in the bank had been damaged through such reports. If the board of directors of the bank possess a similar attitude to that of the senior manager of branch supervision, no one can prevent the Lanka Putra Development Bank from falling into serious trouble. Shouldn't legal action be taken against this former chairman? Shouldn't it also be pointed out that the Banking Act exists in the country and that the Lanka Putra Development Bank cannot evade this act? Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, this is over to you.
The 26th annual graduation ceremony of the General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University was held under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena today.
The event took place at the BMICH, attended by public representatives and former military commanders.
අපිට ලෝකේ සම්වර්ධනය කරනවා තිබෙනා වූ තරකාරිත්වයේ තුල
Within the competitiveness that exists among the developed countries in the world today, what is required in our society and all other sectors in the country is discipline, self-control, goodness, quality and maturity. Governments in certain countries, when they come into power, enroll the people of the country to the civil security force as voluntary servicemen and provide them training to groom them for their primary discipline. So, compared to other universities, the Kotalawala Defence University is unique as it molds graduates who are disciplined and dedicated. They contribute immensely to the nation and are acceptable internationally.
Minister Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca received his letter of appointment as the new organizer for the Kalani electorate of the United National Party today.
Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca received his letter of appointment from UNP leader Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Party seniors including UNP General Secretary Minister Kabir Hashim were present at the occasion. It was the United National Party that brought me into politics. If not for the United National Party, I may never have entered politics. Our objectives are based on the country and its people, and we have accomplished them. The autocratic ruler is now squirming like a worm cut in half. However, a worm cut in half can never be put together again. So I believe that we achieved that victory on the 8th of January last year. Over the past 10 years, the Kalani electorate was operated by uncivilized thugs. We have now brought the situation to an end. Within the course of this week, I will definitely make a request from the Prime Minister to do justice to all the large-scale acts of political vengeance that was prevalent in the country. I also hope to make a request to take legal action against the injustice that I suffered in violation of my rights. I hope to take action through the Parliament. Subsequent to receiving his letter of appointment, Minister Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca addressed the people of the Kalani electorate.
Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Yi Jianling, addressing a media briefing in Colombo last evening, said allegations that loans are being issued from China at high interest rates are unfair.
So I note some media, or even some ministers say expensive loan from China. No, this is really unfair for Chinese government, because we have the regular or fixed interest ratio for any developing countries, 2%. 2%. Not only for Sri Lanka. If we have some comparison with the commercial loan at least 5%. So the Chinese Ministry of Finance must have some subsidies to the Bank of Exim Bank. It's based on our relations. I talked with Huawei, the Minister of Finance. If you don't like this one, Huawei criticized this issue many times publicly. I asked him, if you don't like this one, why you again to talk with me about another one? All the Chinese business people complain to the government why the Chinese government borrow the money to other countries with 2%, but for them at least 5%. So this is really unfair. Sri Lanka people and the government should have some attitude in Thanksgiving.
The Chinese ambassador also voiced his concern about the efficiency of government agencies and allegations of corruption.
More than 150 CEOs from Chinese companies participate in this dialogue. Most of them, they would like to have some investment in Sri Lanka. I must tell them truth, the reality. So I strongly suggest the government agencies and the officials should be more active. I suggest the Chinese business people to come here to cooperate with Sri Lanka business people, not only for independent, but also for joint venture. If you have no clear policy, if everyone would like to make the decision, but no one makes the decision, so how the investors to come to cooperate with you? Cooperation must be bilateral, not the unilateral one. Of course, no problem from the Chinese side, from the Chinese business people, no problem. But depends on your side, efficiency, consistency, and so on.
Journalists also raised questions on projects marred with corruption.
Bribery is your issue. We had the documents. Those contracts was checked by AG, by cabinet, by parliament. The Chinese companies, Chinese government fully follow the agreements. If any bribery relating to Chinese company, of course we will punish. So I do believe the political fighting each other should not be put some linkage with the Chinese assistance and Chinese cooperation.
A delegation of the European Parliament engaged in a tour in the Eastern Province today.
The delegation called on the Chief Minister of the Eastern Province, Hafiz Nazir Ahmed, and several other provincial councillors at the Eastern Provincial Council. The four-member delegation also inspected several projects funded by the EU in the province.
We've welcomed the change of government, and we had an election observation mission for the elections here. So we've welcomed the way in which the new government seems to be opening up much more in terms of opportunities for economic development, for reconciliation. Of course, we've been discussing with them about GSP Plus and the need for the conformity on the human rights, and the European Parliament aims to have a say in that final decision. But we've also been talking, of course, about the possibilities for constitutional reform, but economic development as well. Because, of course, what we're ultimately interested in is the peaceful, democratic, prosperous future of the people of Sri Lanka.
An event titled Danish Days in Sri Lanka was held in Colombo this morning.
The event entails a 2-day seminar which focuses on water, energy and infrastructure. The opening day saw the participation of several ministers as well as representatives of 15 Danish companies and representatives of a number of Sri Lankan companies. The seminar has been organized by the Confederation of Danish Industry, Royal Danish Embassy and the European Chamber of Commerce of Sri Lanka.
Also making it into the headlines tonight, today marks International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists.
According to the United Nations, over 800 journalists have been killed world over for gathering news and information during the past decade. A statement from the United Nations, issued in line with the International Day to End Impunity for Crime Against Journalists, reads, "The International Day was declared by the UN in order to commemorate the death of 2 French journalists killed on the 2nd of November 2013 in Mali." Through its resolution, UN condemns the attack and violence against journalists and media workers. It also urges member states to do their utmost to prevent violence against journalists and media personnel and to ensure accountability by bringing perpetrators to justice. Journalist Sunanta Deshapriya spoke to Newsfirst via Skype from Switzerland.
Something like this is very important to us Sri Lankans because throughout the past, which exceeds a decade, Sri Lankan journalists and media institutions have been subjected to various forms of violence. What needs to be done is to conduct investigations into past crimes. 2 years have passed, yet nothing is being done about this. The President appointed a committee in this regard so that journalists and media institutions who were victimized could file a complaint to this commission and receive compensation. But how many complaints have been lodged? Is compensation being paid? There is no transparent policy showing how the compensation is being paid.
The Free Media Movement also expressed their views on violence experienced by journalists in the recent times.
When we look at Sri Lanka's history of media oppression, at least 54 journalists and 29 media employees have been silenced to death. We have also lost 4 owners of media institutions. If we look at the last decade, which saw the disappearance of Pragith Eknaligoda, we could say that the decade from 2000 to 2010 was deadly for Sri Lanka's media personnel. During 2000 to 2010, 19 mainstream journalists were silenced to death, while 2 were reported missing, namely Pragith Eknaligoda and Rajiv Varman from Jaffna. And in one instance, the Sirasa Media Complex was set on fire. This is important to us, especially in a backdrop where no justice has been meted out to the violence experienced by journalists.
And finally, on sports news, Sri Lanka clinched victory in the first test match of the 2-match series against Zimbabwe by 225 runs. Skipper Rangana Herath and Dilruwan Pereira were the standout performers for Sri Lanka on day 5, picking up 3 wickets apiece. And with that, we conclude tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Shahan Jarampati. Good night and take care.